This is The Joe Gaither Show on BamaCentral.com.
Good afternoon, Tuscaloosa, Internet World, West Alabama. How are we doing today on this Friday? Happy Friday, the 13th. Oh my gosh, hope you and yours are doing well. Welcome in. This is the Joe Gaither Show right here on BamaCentral, BamaCentral.com. I, of course, am Joe Gaither. You're watching us on the BamaCentral YouTube channel. Check us out right there as we make our way up to Wisconsin this weekend. We'll have all kinds of behind-the-scenes coverage of our trip to Camp Randall Stadium. And speaking of our trip to Camp Randall Stadium, that's where I am right now. You'll notice we are not live, but we still invite your comments right here on our social media machines at Joe Gaither6 on your favorite social media platforms, Twitter, YouTube, or Facebook. Or you can always subscribe and download and listen to the show on your favorite podcast platform, The Joe Gaither Show on Bama Central, on Spotify, Apple Podcast, or Amazon. We are traveling at the moment, so we are not live. This will be recorded, but we are excited for the weekend as we are making our way up to Wisconsin. We invite you into a Football Friday. We're going to be joined by Hunter Siver and Scott Salomon. Hunter Siver of BamaCentral.com, who is sitting right next to me on the airplane on our way to Wisconsin, and Scott Salomon, who is getting ready to cover Miami and Ball State. So we cannot wait to get into Football Friday. But before we do tell you all about it, we need to tell you about our friends at Purple Turtle Roofing. They're the most reliable residential roofing replacement company in Alabama and Mississippi. Whether it's addressing leaks, storm damage, or general wear and tear, Purple Turtle Roofing is going to be there to deliver exceptional roof repair for your property. They're the leading expert in local residential roofing solutions, specializing in providing unparalleled service and quality craftsmanship for all your roof replacement needs. Call Dustin Foley and his team today at 877-PT-ROOF-5 for your free roof inspection. That's 877-787-6635 to schedule your appointment, and one of their qualified employees will come check out your roof for free and make sure you're prepared for any and all of life's storms. Check them out online at roofturtle.com. We had a lot of storms in Alabama yesterday, so we encourage you to check out our friends at Purple Turtle Roofing. So let's get right into it with our friends, Scott Salomon and Hunter Siver. Scott, how are we doing today? We're ready for week number 3 in college football.
I'm ready. Let's do it.
Absolutely. Hunter Siver, you doing okay? You hanging in there on our trip here?
Absolutely. Yeah, it's been a long ride, but I'm ready.
All right, well, we are going to get into Alabama and Wisconsin first. We'll get a little touch on Miami as they look like the favorites for the ACC at the moment. But, Hunter, I wanted to start with you because I finished up my show Thursday. I identified 3 players that I wanted to watch for this weekend's game, and I wanted to get your opinion on it and get you to build off and pick 3 players on your own. I picked Jam Miller, I picked Keon Sabb, and I picked Quandarius Robinson as players to watch this weekend for Alabama up there at Wisconsin. I picked the 3 because each of them have the opportunity to do something for the third time this week. Each of them doing 2 things. Quandarius Robinson, 2 sacks in 2 weeks. You got Keon Sabb going for his 3rd interception, and you got Jam Miller going for his 3rd long touchdown run of the week. So how you feel about my players to watch, and what are you watching for this weekend up in Wisconsin?
Yeah, I mean, I think those are good selections. I'll start with Keon Sabb. In week 1, I thought his 2 interceptions were phenomenal. A great way to start your Alabama career. Last game, he was kind of kept quiet, which is a good thing for a cornerback, as I think the pass defense did a really solid job overall against Byron Brown. Jam Miller, week 1, super explosive. Week 2, for the first 3 quarters, that wasn't the case, really. But in the 4th quarter, obviously, finished with a ton of yards. So it really made his stat line look really good there. I think it'll be tough for him to replicate those numbers this upcoming game for Wisconsin, but I think it's definitely possible. I think it's a good choice there. And the 3rd one was Q Robinson. He's really broken out after a few years, just not really playing much for Alabama in the last couple games. I think he's been excellent. I actually spoke with him about it after the game against USF, and he's super grateful for everything. And he's really enjoyed being at Bama so far, and I look forward to seeing him on Saturday. For my picks, you want me to go now, or okay? All right. First guy I want to pick is Kendrick Law. I think he's been solid for the first couple of games, but we've all seen in college football 25 how ridiculously overpowered this guy is. And obviously, it's a video game. This is real life. But his speed on the field, you could clearly tell that he's a big vertical threat and can really just go anywhere on the field and get open. I think more targets his way could really be beneficial, and I think he could do that against this Wisconsin secondary. Next up, I'm going to go with Justice Haynes, who is the 1-2 punch for Jam Miller. I like Justice. I always have since he got here last year. But I would say that if Jam's stats are going to go down, Justice's will go up a little bit. Now, for the first three quarters, I believe it was the first 3 quarters. I might be wrong. Might have been the first half, but Justice Haynes had 6 carries for 0 yards against USF, which is a little scary. Meanwhile, in game 1, he balled out. He had 85-yard touchdown. So I really like to see him do well and rebound for this upcoming week, but obviously that comes with splitting carries well enough with Jam Miller. And the third guy, I'm going to go with Jalen Milroe here. I think it's a safe pick, I guess, for this scenario. Week 1, he didn't have many passes. I think he only had 9 completions or 9 attempts. It was somewhere in that area. Week 2 was kind of a bit more of the same. Wasn't really explosive through the air. I mean, there was a few plays like that, but I think now we're in week 3. Last year, he was a big factor in taking Alabama to the Rose Bowl. And it was because not only was he good on the ground, but he was good through the air. And we've seen that he's been good on the ground so far the first couple of weeks, but I'd like to see him more in the air for this Wisconsin game.
All right, well, we're excited for Alabama and Wisconsin, but we also have a Miami expert, a South Florida expert, Scott Salomon. And look, Miami having another kind of subpar opponent. So I just want to open a general question for Miami. You beat the heck out of Florida A&M, and obviously you got Ball State coming up right here this week. What can we really learn about Miami? What are really the goals right here with last week's game against a subpar opponent and this week's game now with Ball State? And Scott, thank you so much for joining us.
I think Ball State presents a good challenge. They're tough offensively and defensively. They have a very senior offensive line and a very cerebral, mobile quarterback. I think it'll be a good challenge for the Hurricanes. It's going to be one of those games that you can't look past. They have USF next week, which is another non-conference game. It'll be the end of their non-conference schedule. So it's going to be interesting to see how they get through these next 2 weeks and not play down to the level of their opponent.
Scott, what'd you make from the South Florida-Alabama game? South Florida hanging in for 3 quarters and what that might mean for Miami in 2 weeks.
South Florida, I don't know if it was South Florida playing above their means or if it was Alabama playing down to the level of their opponent. I know Alabama did the same thing last season when they took Jaden Milroe out and started a backup quarterback. I just don't know what to expect out of USF. I know they're very well coached, they're well disciplined, and they've got a good club. So I anticipate a good game. It's going to be at Raymond James Stadium, and I know their fans are going to be out and be hungry.
So you said Ball State this week is going to be a good test. Is that just coach speak coming for you? Is that just respect for the opponent? Will it be a real good test, or will we see another 40, 50-point Miami blowout?
It'll be a good test, but I think you'll still see a 40 to 50-point blowout.
How can they be true? How can both be true? Tell me. Educate me.
I think Miami's going to keep their starters in a little bit longer. Last week, we were pulling our starters out second quarter and letting the reserves and the freshmen play. I think it's going to be a blowout in the third quarter. And I think that probably midway through the third quarter, you'll see the reserves and the freshmen come in.
We're going to juice up Cam Ward's stats to get him ready for a Heisman Trophy ceremony.
He's going to be the first Miami quarterback to throw for 300 yards and 3 touchdowns in his first 3 starts.
Ooh, I love things that come in threes. You picked up the theme. Thank you very much. Very well done. And so, Cam, is he the best quarterback in the country? I mean, I'm seeing quarterback evaluators saying, "Oh, Carson Beck, this and that." And no disrespect to Carson Beck, but is Cam Ward the best quarterback in the country?
Cam Ward extends plays like no quarterback I've ever seen. He can take a play that looks like a busted play and turn it into a touchdown. I'm real confident with Cam Ward back there. I think he scrambles real well. He showed you his heart and his intensity when he had the 8-yard touchdown run last week and he dove for the pylon head first. You don't see many Heisman candidate quarterbacks doing that. And his coaches weren't even squeamish about it.
Oh, I just lost my train of thought here. So with Miami beating Florida A&M, what did you learn about the Hurricanes?
I learned that the Hurricanes are very deep. They have a lot of reserves that are capable of earning playing time, and they're going to be good for a long time to come. They have a lot of young superstars. You've got guys like Robbie Washington waiting in the wings to play cornerback. He's just biding his time. He looks really good in practice, according to Coach Cristobal. I really like the way Reese Poffenberger played last week. He led the Canes to a touchdown drive. Chris Johnson in the backfield is a true freshman. I don't know if they're going to redshirt him or not, if he's just going to play 4 games and sit out. But he looked real tough. And Miami just looks really deep for the first time in about 10, 15 years.
All right, so you're saying a lot of what we're already seeing, and I agree with you. In the summertime, Justice was saying a lot of the same things when I would spend time with Justice Sandel, Miami Hurricanes on SI, just like Scott Salomon. And I kept feeling like, Justice, come on, it's Miami. Things are going to happen. Somebody's going to get hurt. Scandals going to happen, coaching errors. Something's going to pop up. It's going to be bad luck for Miami in somehow, some way. And he just, no, it's best. It might be the best offense in the ACC. It might be the best quarterback in the country. It might be the best receiving core in the nation. The defensive line, Joe, is so deep, X, Y, Z. And he was just singing their praises. And so, Scott, let me take that and ask you, with the start, you're 2-0, and you're looking like, okay, probably going to handle Ball State this weekend to move to 3-0. What could derail the Hurricanes at this point?
Bad coaching.
Okay.
Somebody asked me, when's Mario going to screw this up? And I've got to think that it's not going to happen. I think Mario's a better coach than that. He made a mistake last year against Georgia Tech that cost them a game. But he corrected that, and he actually has a time management coach on the sideline to help manage timeouts and to help manage the end of the game. I think that Mario is a good enough coach to where he can win the ACC this year, and I think Miami's going to have a spot in the playoffs.
Hunter, what do you think about watching the Canes through 2 weeks? Obviously not taking much from beating Florida A&M, but beat the brakes off the Florida Gators.
Yeah, I mean, Cam Ward's a guy to look at as a dark horse Heisman favorite. It's as simple as that. Like, the ACC seems to be wide open, and based off Florida State's recent performance, it seems like Miami might be the team to be here, and Clemson too. Like, they've also gotten beat badly by Georgia. So right now, I think I'm not going to say a playoff spot is locked up for them, but they're in good shape at the moment, and it's Cam Ward and Mario Cristobal are big reasons why.
All right, so let's mix up our timing here. Well, usually we do our Football Fridays, our picks at the end, but we're not going to make Scott sit around while Hunter and I talk about Alabama and Wisconsin before we do our picks. Why don't we tell everybody about Derek Daniel at State Farm, and then we'll pick – we got a 6-game slate this week of our picks, and then we'll say goodbye so we won't waste Scott's time, and then Hunter and I will keep talking about Alabama, Wisconsin. How about that for a plan for us? We did Purple Turtle to start our show. We'll tell you about Derek Daniel, State Farm Insurance, right here in Northport, Alabama. Derek Daniel, like a good neighbor. You need to call him today at 758-3391. Derek Daniel, his team, Red, Reese, and Victoria will be happy to take your phone call, get you a very quick auto insurance quote. Look, it's raining. It rained a lot yesterday in Tuscaloosa. You know, it's tough times to be driving in Tuscaloosa when it's raining, so you want to make sure that you're properly covered with the right auto insurance. You can call them today at 205-758-3391. They'd be happy to run your quote and make it a quick and painless process. Like a good neighbor, Derek Daniel and State Farm is there. All right, let's keep this bad boy rolling. We'll make our picks, and then Hunter and I will circle back to talk about Wisconsin just a little bit more. It's Football Friday, and there are only 2 ranked games this week. Oh, painful. But a couple SEC matchups, and then obviously Alabama and Wisconsin. So let's start with Friday night. Arizona at Kansas State, a game I know almost nothing about because of the East Coast bias. Number 20, Arizona is playing number 14, Kansas State. 7-point favorite in Manhattan, Kansas, right? Manhattan, Kansas. I'll take Kansas State. Scott Salomon, do you have any expertise to give us for this Friday night game, 7 o'clock on Fox?
I'm going to go with Kansas State as well. I like their quarterback. I think he's mobile. He's got a very good arm out of the pocket, and he's strong. I'm going to take Kansas State's offense.
For me, I'm actually going to go the other way around here. I'm going to go with Arizona. I don't want to butcher their names, but Noah Fifita and wide receiver Teo Tiara McMillan. McMillan's the last name, so that's
a good effort. That was a real good effort. We love it.
Yeah, I think them they're one of the more underrated, really underrated under the radar dynamic duos in college football this year. And McMillan was the runner-up in week 1 for the AP Player of the Week, or he might have won it, actually. No, I think it might have been Ashton Jeanty. It was one of the two of them. But regardless, I think that those two could really figure this one out against Kansas State. And hold on, who's home for that?
Kansas State. Kansas State, they're 7-point favorite. You changing your mind?
No. I'm still going with it. Kansas State, I think it's 7.5. I mean, I'm still going Arizona regardless. But even if Kansas State wins, I'm going to say that Arizona covers.
All right, there we go. We'll see what the Wildcats do on Friday night. That'll give everybody something to do on their Friday nights if you're not making it to a high school football game. 11 o'clock on Saturday, SEC matchup. We'll just take these in order except for the Alabama game. Number 16, LSU, is on the road at South Carolina. LSU is a 7-point favorite. Hunter, you'll go first this time, and we'll spin it back around the other way. You taking the Tigers or you taking the Gamecocks at home? LSU is a 7-point favorite, 11 o'clock on ABC.
Yeah, I got to go with LSU here. I mean, I'm just as shocked as anybody that South Carolina beat Kentucky. We all last time we all said that was just not going to happen, and I don't think they get lucky twice. It's as simple as that. I think Will Campbell, offensive tackle, who's going to go probably top 5, top 10 in the draft this year. I think he'll really motivate the team, motivate the Tigers in general, and get this one done.
Lightning's not going to strike twice for South Carolina. LSU's going to win this one, and they're going to win it big.
Yeah, I'm definitely with you, Scott. I think this will be the first opportunity really for LSU. Obviously, they beat Nichols last week. Good job. Who cares? It'll be the first opportunity to really wash out that USC bad taste in their mouth by getting a good win under their belt. I'm going to take LSU in a big way as well. I just can't get myself to respect Shane Beamer, no matter what he does. And beating Kentucky is not going to move my needle for me. We'll keep it going. The only other ranked matchup is number 24, Boston College. Bill O'Brien and the Eagles are ranked. What? Against number 6, Missouri. The Missouri Tigers are a 16-point favorite. 11:45. This game is relegated to SEC Network because I guess they didn't expect the Eagles to win at Florida State. Boston College beat Duquesne last week. Isn't that who they beat? They beat somebody really bad. I think it was Duquesne. Yeah. And so Missouri has beaten Buffalo. and Murray State. Missouri is a 16-point favorite. I'll start at this time and spin it the other way. I am taking Eli Drinkwitz. Look, I'm taking Eli Drinkwitz and Missouri. I think they've kind of not sleptwalked, but they've done what they've needed to do against these two inferior opponents. They haven't really played at an A-plus level yet. They've still got, a nice step to take, especially consistency when it comes to offense. And obviously, Luther Burton's been playing well, and Theo Weiss had a nice game in this past week. But I think that they can play more consistently, drive in and drive out, and maybe this week they raise their level of play with a ranked opponent in Boston College. I'm taking the Tigers. Scott?
Don't forget, my friend, I picked Boston College straight up over Florida State.
Winner, winner, winner.
And I'm taking Boston College again.
2 times.
But Bill O'Brien's not going to let me down. I'm taking B.O.B. all the way.
I like it. I like Castellanos. He's a tough player.
He's tough and he's fast.
This is a very interesting matchup. I mean, 3 weeks ago, if I saw top 10 ranked or 10, 11 in that area, Mizzou going against when it was unranked Boston College, I thought Mizzou it would be a walk in the park. But now it's a little more interesting. What is the line by chance?
Missouri 16.
Okay, I think that's actually pretty fair. I'm going to go with Mizzou here. I think BC's done an excellent job these first couple games, but I don't know if they could beat Mizzou at home. I'm a big believer in Brady Cook and Luther Burden. Luther Burden finished last year as like the second best wide receiver in the class. He's up there, top 5, but it was really Marvin Harrison Jr., Roma Dunze, Malik Neighbors, and probably him. Like maybe, he was better than Xavier Worthy and etc. But anyways, I want to see him prove, now that all those guys are in the league, I want to see him prove why he is the Biletnikoff Award favorite. So I think that could happen for this game. Obviously, we have a long way to go, but I think this game will really cement a stone that he is the best college football wide receiver at the moment.
Well, Hunter, I don't like our odds leaving Scott on an island with Boston College. The last time that happened did not go our way. Boston College beating Florida State outright in week number 1. We'll keep rolling. We got 2 SEC games, and then we'll circle back to the Alabama-Wisconsin game at 2:30 on ABC. This game is probably the most interesting non-ranked game of the weekend to me, and it's more so because of maybe incompetence. Texas A&M is on the road at Florida. The Aggies are a 3.5-point favorite on the road at Billy Napier. I think the bad times keep going for Florida. Well, DJ Lagway played well last week. I'll still take Texas A&M. I'll take Texas A&M. We'll spin it back the other way and send it to you, Hunter.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not – these kind of – Florida's obviously super underwhelming, but they got this stud freshman in DJ Lagway, who's a top 5 recruit in his class overall, not just at QB. I think he might have been even the number 1 or number 2 QB. But A&M hasn't been super great either. They lost to Notre Dame, who then lost to Northern Illinois. I'm not really a big believer in Connor Weigman, however you pronounce it. But
actually, Wigman.
Wigman? Okay. I was overdue. All right. So Wigman, I mean, the Swamp is obviously a very intimidating place to play in, but I think A&M's got this one in a close call.
You know, Lagway played really well in his one start. So what does Napier do? He's putting Mertz back in.
No.
Mertz is going to get the start. Lagway will get some reps. But I think it's going to be too little too late. And I think Texas A&M steamrolls them at home.
That's not the right move, Billy.
I know that, yeah. I would definitely go with A&M.
Sunbelt Billy never makes the right move.
Just live and die with the freshman. If you go down with him, at least you're the future, I guess. Okay, we'll keep going. Georgia against Kentucky. Everybody's picking Georgia. Okay, that's not the question. The Georgia is a 24-point favorite on the road at Kentucky. And I think Georgia covers the number. Scott?
I'm going to take Kentucky to cover, not to win.
Sure.
But I'm going to take them to cover. I don't think that Georgia really is all that good. They're the number one team in the country for a reason, but I don't see their offense being that explosive. I think they're very good on defense. I think it's going to be a closer game than people think, and I don't think Georgia's going to cover.
All right.
I mean, what?
I said I like it. Keep going.
Okay, yeah. I mean, Scott kind of took the words out of my mouth in that they're the number one team in college football for a reason. But against Kentucky, I don't know. South Carolina just beat them, as we said before. The line's 24. I think it's like right around there is where I think that they would win this game for Georgia. I just think even though their offense isn't as great as in years past, I still think Carson Beck could get this done no problem and win probably by like 24, 27 areas. So I think they could definitely cover it. But I wouldn't be surprised if they don't.
All right, the game that everybody's interested in, at least from our perspective, is Alabama at Wisconsin. Alabama is a 16.5-point favorite, 11 a.m. on Fox, Camp Randall Stadium. Hunter, will you start, Scott, and then I'll close us right here on our pick segment.
Yeah, I'm surprised 16.5. I mean, Wisconsin, both of their games were against these like FCS caliber schools, and they only won by 14 in each of them. Like that's not really great. I definitely think Alabama's going to cover this one. I mean, I don't want to get too much into detail because we're going to be talking about that later on. But, yeah, I definitely would say Alabama covers here, wins by at least 24-ish. I mean, I've seen, like, on the BamaCentral YouTube, like, I've seen, like, Wisconsin people comment saying, like, oh, you guys got this in the bag. Like, don't worry. So, I mean, that's an easy enough answer for me.
I think Bama's clearly going to pull it out. It's just a question of how many points are they going to put up. Which Jalen Milroe is going to show up? Is he going to go 7 of 9 again and not put the ball up in the air, or are they going to keep it on the ground and try to ground and pound with ball control? I think if he can take advantage of his wide receivers, I think it's going to be a 20, 25-point differential. If they keep the ball on the ground, I don't know if Alabama covers.
Well, I think it's going to be an ugly game of sorts. You think back to the last 2 times that Alabama went on the road in non-conference play at South Florida and at Texas. Both times Alabama was heavily favored and came away with ugly victories. But I keep going back. I just think the athletic difference is going to take its toll. We'll get into the whys a little bit more with Hunter here in just a little bit. But to wrap up our pick segment, I wrote down 30-13 Alabama over Wisconsin. So I am taking Alabama to cover the spread, the 16.5, but I'm playing the under. I think the under, I saw it was a 50-something, 53. Oh, I just had it right there. Yeah, 50.5. And my total is at 43. So we're taking the under, but I am taking Alabama to win and cover. All of us taking Alabama to win. And it'll be a lot of fun to get into the weekend. Scott, tell everybody before you leave where they can find all of your Miami coverage this weekend as you're getting ready to cover the Hurricanes' historic run to an ACC title.
We're going to be on Miami Hurricanes on SI. Turn to all the coverage from me, from Justice, and the rest of the crew. We're going to have a lot of good content up. We hope to have some press conference audio or video. We're going to be ready to go, and we're going to tell you everything you need to know about the Miami Hurricanes, but we're afraid to ask.
There we go. Scott Salomon. Follow him at Scott Salomon NFL, right, on the Twitter machine. And you can follow all of his great work, his and Justice Sandal and the rest of the team, Miami Hurricanes on SI. Just type Miami Hurricanes SI into your Google machine, and it'll be the first thing that pops up. There'll be all kinds of game coverage this weekend as they're taking on the Ball State Cardinals. Scott, have a great weekend. Thanks for your time.
Thanks, guys. You too.
Absolutely. That's Scott Salomon joining us telling us about the Miami Hurricanes, one of the other programs that we cover right here on the Walsh Riding Network. You can listen to the Boston College and Missouri kind of joint segment this week right there on each of their YouTube channels or each of their own respective Joe Gaither Show podcasts, as they both of two of our Walsh Riding Network programs are going head-to-head this weekend. That's going to be really, really intriguing. Let's get back to the Alabama game against Wisconsin with Hunter as we're making our way up there for BamaCentral and BamaCentral.com. Before we do, I want to circle us back and tell us about Purple Turtle Roofing one more time. They're the most reliable residential roof replacement company in Alabama and Mississippi. And I know if you're listening to this program, you need it because it stormed like crazy on Thursday. Whether it's addressing leaks, storm damage, or general wear and tear, Purple Turtle Roofing is going to be there to deliver exceptional roof repair for your property. Call Dustin Foley and his team today at 877-PT-ROOF-5 for your free roof inspection. That's 877-787-6635. You can visit them online at roofturtle.com. All right, Hunter, let's talk about Alabama a little bit more. How about that?
Sure, yeah.
Absolutely. We are probably in the air as this is getting published. But I'll just get your takeaways from last week's game. I mean, I gave mine on early episodes of the week. Alabama 42-16 over South Florida. Where did you sit on Saturday night after the game, leaving Bryant-Denny Stadium? Leaving Saban Field, Saban Field at Bryant-Denny Stadium.
It's so strange because for what we do in the press box, obviously, is we try to find story angles or whatever. And when Alabama is only up by 1 against a group of 5 team like USF, it seems like you want to go with kind of like a negative story regardless if they win or not. And so I kind of had it set in stone that the poor offensive line play and all like the penalties was going to be my main thing to write about. But then a flip switch in the fourth quarter, and you can't really write a negative piece when you win by 20, 42-16?
Yeah, so 26 points.
Yeah, 26 points. Like, you can't really write a negative piece on that. So I ended up shifting it to just the defensive performance overall. I mean, you hold them to 1 touchdown all game, and many of those, like there were a bunch of red zone appearances for them, but they still couldn't get it done. I thought the pass defense did a great job in that regard, as Byron Brown, I think, went 15 for 35 or something like that with just over 100 yards passing. There were
underneath little
stuff. Yeah, that was the only thing really available. The secondary got burnt like 3 times on the same drive, but they were all overthrows by Brown. Now, had they been good throws, score totally would have been different. Alabama may not have even won the game, but that obviously wasn't the case. But like I said before, overall, I think Alabama's secondary did a tremendous job last Saturday. Let's see. Offensively, as I said before, offensive line was a big issue, but they put in Pritchett, who was a little dinged up for the fourth quarter. He only played like 6 snaps, but it was a good 6 snaps, all right. He scored a few times on those snaps, and things just really switched. Jam Miller finished with over like 140 yards rushing. That's incredible, and he didn't have really any going into the fourth quarter. I think, as I said earlier, that Milroe could still do more passing, as a lot of time he would just snap it and wouldn't look downfield as much and would just kind of run off to the side, which helped, but not enough, as they really didn't score many points for the first 3 quarters. I'm trying to think what else I haven't covered here that we won't cover like later on, but I think linebacker play was excellent. Q Robinson did his thing. Jahad Campbell has been great the first couple weeks too. But we've spoken about Tim Keenan a lot, you and I. That was probably his best game of his Bama career, at least from my eyes, from what I saw. He was absolutely dominant, and against an offensive line, like Wisconsin's always kind of been known for like having a good offensive line, and that'll be a challenge for this upcoming week if he could replicate something like that. So I think I've covered all the positions pretty much.
Yeah, you nailed it right there. You nailed it. Alabama. Look, we just all said it with Scott that Alabama. We're predicting Alabama to win the game, and most of us are right there around Alabama covering the spread. And so you're expecting a pretty good win, a pretty emphatic win this weekend. We've acknowledged the skill gap between Alabama and Wisconsin. So because of that, what are you looking to learn about Alabama, or how can Alabama grow this weekend in Wisconsin? What are you looking to learn about the Crimson Tide?
Yeah, week 1, week 2 were kind of different. Week 1, just kind of, I wouldn't say perfection across the board, but excellence across the board. But it was against a team like Western Kentucky. It wasn't against a Big Ten school like this. USF, group of 5 team, final score ended up being tremendous, but not for the first 3 quarters. So it was kind of hard to nitpick all this stuff. But now that you're actually going against a Big Ten opponent, like an opponent that has somewhat similar status in terms of the conference they're in, obviously the SEC, there's no argument. The SEC it just means more. It's definitely the better conference overall, based on the past few years, past few decades, and NFL production. Regardless, I really want to see Alabama move the ball downfield better. We've seen a lot of explosive plays for them, but not really many methodical drives, and that's pretty important. You can't just have explosive plays all game, and it didn't work against USF for 3 quarters. It did for the 4th, but I really want to see Alabama kind of have like consistent 8 to 10 yard gains, maybe even a little less, like 5 to 6, and not just like a random 25, 30 every once in a while, because it is important to have these small gains. I spoke with running backs coach Robert Gillespie about it, and he said the same exact thing, that it's extremely important and that you can't be at Alabama if you can't do both the explosive plays and the small gains.
Oh man, I've been losing my train of thought all kinds of time.
I just went on.
No. I've just been doing a bunch of shows while we've been preparing for this weekend. I want to ask you yourself, with your experience in the Big Ten, and what we're walking into. Obviously, you haven't been to Wisconsin, and it's going to be our first time at Camp Randall Stadium. But I don't want to put your business out there too much. You are a little bit of a northern guy.
Oh, sure.
So what's the Wisconsin reputation? I mean, yeah, on the field, we've seen them struggle this year against Western Michigan and South Dakota, 2 struggle wins. But as far as the atmosphere, I mean, this is going to be the first road game of the year. Will that be a big challenge?
Yeah, I mean, as someone who's from the Northeast and has lived there his whole life, I know plenty of people that have gone to Wisconsin. In fact, when we're there, I'm actually going to be meeting up with someone for dinner. And they all say the same thing, that it's an extremely loud environment, over 80,000 people. But the jump around thing, that song that plays in the 3rd quarter, it's just unlike anything that you'll ever see. Like Alabama kind of has like Dixieland Delight, which obviously gets super loud, but I can't honestly say that it's as exuberant and vibrant and like floor shaking as jump around is.
I can't wait for it. I can't wait.
Yeah. I mean, now we'll find out in a little bit, but I don't know what I know we were discussing the press box, whether it was open or not. I mean, I prefer it to be open for this week, but yeah, I mean, the Big Ten, there's a couple teams like that, Ohio State, Michigan, Penn State. They all have extremely loud crowds, but it doesn't necessarily translate to national championships. Obviously, Michigan just won it, but like I said before, I think the SEC kind of beats them out in terms of production, and the same goes for Wisconsin. But the stadiums, it's a tough battle. So, in short, as a Northeasterner, Wisconsin is super loud, but I don't know if that can make up for Saturday's game against a top 5 team like Alabama.
80,000 people is the capacity for Camp Randall Stadium, so it'll be not as big as Bryant-Denny Stadium, but it'll be close. I remember my train of thought as you were talking, what I was actually going to ask you. Let me go back to last Saturday. The offensive line struggles. I basically all week long have written it off because of the shuffling, the guys playing out of position, the health issues, wanting to preserve Caden Proctor, wanting to preserve Elijah Pritchett, and just saying we'll just make do with what we've got. I don't think it's going to look as bad as it looked this past Saturday, probably ever again the rest of this year. Do you agree with me? Are you writing it off with me, or are you? Because I mean, there's a lot of people that are saying, okay, this is a real issue, and I'm kind of saying I don't think it's that big of a deal. Where are you?
No, I'm definitely with you. I could definitely see the offensive line really improving. I wrote a piece on Wilkin Formby. I'm trying to remember who said it. It was Tyler Booker and Nick Sheridan. They both kind of said that they've really been uplifting him for this entire week, as obviously he had 4 penalties against USF. And for a college kid to get all these news outlets and media around you for this, it's tough. Like, I can't imagine that. I'm not a college athlete. I never was, but I always try to focus on the positive for news. And that's why I kind of went with them, like the angle of that. Oh, they're uplifting him. They're doing a good job. They're making sure that he's all good. So I don't know exactly how it's going to go between him and Pritchett for the right tackle spot for Saturday. I'd like to see both of them play. Mainly Pritchett. Pritchett, obviously, in his few snaps, a small sample size, it went really well. But I'd really like to see some great improvement from it. Formby, as Tyler Booker said, he was really excited to see what he does on Saturday.
All right, well, let's start to land this plane just a little bit. And you've given 3 players to watch. You said Kendrick Law, Deontay Lawson, and who was your third? Remind me.
I went with Milroe.
Jalen Milroe. Yes, perfect. I wanted to go with Milroe, but yesterday, but I felt like since I used him last week, I wanted to go with three different players. I think Milroe is going to really overwhelm this team. I think he's really his athleticism is really going to be tough for them to deal with. There ain't no athletes like Jalen Milroe on Western Michigan and South Dakota. I think that he's in for a bounce back game this weekend. I said 30-13. I've been struggling all week with my prediction because I do think Alabama's a lot better on paper.
I want to interrupt you real quick.
Please.
So you say 30-13. Does that mean, and I don't know if you put much thought into it, does that mean 2 touchdowns or no, 3 touchdowns and 3 field goals? Because Alabama has not has not even attempted a field goal yet.
I haven't thought it that deeply broken down how it's going to be, but I imagine that's your first field goal for Alabama is in Camp Randall Stadium, and 80,000 people are screaming at you. I think that'd be a nice time for some pressure. I have heard that there's not concerns, but maybe that Nicholson, they'd like to see him make some kicks to get some confidence.
Well, he just won the Lou Groza. He's
make some kicks in a new environment.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he hasn't really had the chance to.
Exactly. That would be a challenging environment to make your first kick. I think that'd be
exactly. Good. Yeah. So he's going to do the kicking. What's the deal with Connor Talty? Because I know he does kickoffs. I don't think he'd be doing field goals as well.
No, yeah. And it'll be interesting. I don't know if the travel squad numbers, if they have changed recently with a lot of the changes in college football, but it'll be interesting to see if he is left at home because of travel squad restrictions, if Graham Nicholson is actually doing kickoff. I didn't even think about that until just now, but they may have changed the restrictions for travel squad, and I wasn't aware, and I haven't paid attention to that. So maybe that won't be a thing on Saturday.
Gotcha. Okay.
All right, so I was going to get to what your prediction actually was. You predicted Alabama to cover. I was going 30-13. My struggle is balancing Alabama being that much better than Wisconsin, because I do think Alabama is a lot better than Wisconsin, versus the last 2 road games. You played Texas extremely sloppy. They played so high 2 years ago, and Texas was a good team for sure. And then last year, you played down to South Florida in a terrible monsoon storm. You haven't really played well on the road since COVID-19, really. You've had some blowouts. You blew out Mississippi State last year on the road. You blew out Kentucky last year on the road. But a lot of games where the talent's been somewhat close, you've played some ugly games on the road in the last couple of years. So I don't know. I think there's a chance it's closer, but maybe the talent prevails. I'm going with 30-13.
Yeah, I mean, this is by no means a knock on Nick Saban and his staff, but it's a totally new staff, really, for this year compared to the last few. So I'm not really focused on past road game performances. Obviously, Alabama won pretty much all of them anyways. But I don't think – it's the first road test in the Kalen DeBoer era. I really don't think it's going to hinder them that much. I don't really think it's going to be much of an obstacle. I think Alabama is going to allow 17. And I think the offense is really going to get back on track for full time, not just the fourth quarter. I think the offense will score, I just had it in my head, 41. So 5 touchdowns, 2 field goals.
Did you say 41-14? Is that what you said?
41-17.
17. All right, there we go. We'll see what happens. Hunter, you got any other thoughts on this game you want to share or anything else sticking out on your brain about this trip that you think might be interesting we want to talk about? I want to cut you off here.
No, you're good. You're good. I'm trying to think. Week 1, we saw a lot of subbing in and out in the secondary and just the defense overall. Offense has been uniform pretty much week 1 and week 2. But week 2, it was really just kind of the starters were mainly out there for the most part, or just some guys that were major contributors as well. I'd like to see a bunch of players play against Wisconsin. Obviously, you can't do that unless the score is close or not close. But I'd like to see someone like Jalen Mbakwe play a decent amount of snaps for this upcoming game. If I had to pick one thing to close on, I'd say someone like Jalen Mbakwe, a freshman, a phenom freshman, gets a good amount of snaps against a Big Ten school.
Well, it's going to be a lot of fun to watch. Who plays, who doesn't. You can read all about it, BamaCentral.com, Alabama Crimson Tide on SI. Follow Hunter DeSiver at Hunter DeSiver on the Twitter machine. We're all at BamaCentral. I am at Joe Gaither 6. Speaking of Jalen Mbakwe, check out Jalen Mbakwe's podcast. We'll shout out a little plug. Jalen Mbakwe, Ryan Williams having Courtney Morgan on their show this past week. So check that episode out as you are making your own way up to Wisconsin. We'll get out of here for the day. We'll tell you again about Druid City Music Hall. They've got one show next week on Thursday, so it's a bye week, so a little bit of a quiet week. But make sure you check out Druid City Music Hall at druidcitymusichall.com/shows for their entire lineup for their fall semester. Their Kaleidoscope concert series has been going. I've been down there for at least one show. We'll see some more down there at Druid City Music Hall. It is the premier place for live music on this trip. My man Bruce sends us off. We'll get out of here for the day. Follow us on BamaCentral, BamaCentral.com, and the BamaCentral YouTube channel for all of your Wisconsin coverage. We'll catch up with you next week. Win, lose, or draw, right here on the Joe Gaither Show on BamaCentral and BamaCentral.com.
Thanks for joining us on today's edition of the Joe Gaither Show on BamaCentral. Keep up with Joe on all his social media pages at Joe Gaither 6. Subscribe, rate, and review the show on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, and be sure to read us daily at BamaCentral.com.